Were you once in middle school? Do you remember what you learned, even for classes you did well in? My guess is probably not. It is very common for middle school students to only focus on the grade rather than the necessary skills needed to have a successful educational career. In fact, the traditional grading method seems to hinder the student's success rather than help. Hi, my name is Amber, and I am a first-year student at Western Washington University. I am currently studying English literature, and I am working towards becoming a secondary teacher. My biggest goal is to give my future students the best education they can possibly achieve. With that comes evaluating different grading methods and finding out the one that is found to be most productive. Currently, the most common type of grading system in the U.S. is the traditional method. This includes grading the students with a letter grade, such as A through F with pluses and minuses. These letters are given based on a percentage breakdown. This could mean that each individual assignment or assessment receives a grade, and then the average of these scores will be the student's final grade. In a public school setting, this does not give much freedom for the teachers, especially when they think a student should be receiving a higher or lower grade in their class. With these guidelines clear to the students, it switches their focus onto the grades instead of the material. When grades are based on completion and correct answers, it would give the student the motivation to complete the assignment. But this does not mean they are understanding what they are completing. Overall, this would not be a good representation for what a student is learning in class and their comprehension of these material. Now you might wonder, what is a better grading system? Well, standard-based grading is pretty self-explanatory. The teachers would have a rubric, or in other words, standards, that they will be able to use to measure their students. Most commonly, these will be in forms of numbers 1 through 4. This range is based on if a student is below standard, approaching standard, at standard, or above standard. When deciding these grades, it is up to the teacher to look at the assignments, but to not base the grade solely on if they got the correct answer. In fact, these grades would come out the end of term and would be focused on the most recent work that a student produced. One of the biggest benefits is that a student would not be penalized for not knowing certain material at the beginning of the quarter. Instead, it would all depend on if they were able to learn and comprehend the material by the end of the term. I got the chance to speak to a current middle school teacher about her thoughts between different grading systems. Cindy Hatcher is a current middle school teacher who has experience working with traditional and standard-based grading. During our discussion, she was able to compare these two methods and has found a significant difference. In fact, during her 2-decade-long teaching career, she was teaching at a school that switched from traditional to standard. At first, it was a hard transition because the teachers, parents, and students still had the same traditional mentality. There would even be some teachers that did not embrace the updated method and instead tried to keep the percentage breakdowns in their own classrooms. However, after that first bump in the road, the teachers and students were able to see progress. The most important aspect that Mrs. Hatcher noticed was that students would not be penalized for mistakes they made months ago. If a student was at a C average for the beginning of the quarter, it would be almost impossible to majorly change this grade towards the end of term. A student that could have learned all the material and would confidently be able to demonstrate this would still leave the class with a low grade. Cindy Hatcher just recently switched schools, and although the school uses a traditional method, she will still try her very best to incorporate the positives that the standard-based grading provides. This includes giving students the chance to retake tests, have the first few assignments of the year be less points, and letting students have a chance to earn extra credit. While this is something some teachers do, it does not mean that every teacher does this. If we were to just change the grading system to the standard method, then it would allow students to be more successful in more of their classes. Truthfully, different grading systems work best with different people. However, the standard-based grading system is more accommodating for students. The biggest benefit is letting students prove their comprehension rather than proving they can find the right answers. Teachers who have worked with both types have found better results with standard-based. Moving forward, every middle school should be using standard-based grading to help give their students a better education. If you are a teacher, try introducing this topic to those in your building, or use the accommodations that Mrs. Hatcher has found beneficial in her classroom. Parents should learn which grading system their child's school uses and start reflecting on how this is impacting their student. Switching to a different system takes time, but it is worth the effort.